Greetings, dear wanderer. Tonight, we invite you to journey through time with two Viking bedtime stories, one about the world's end in Ragnarok, and the other about the daring siege of Paris. So find a cozy spot, take a deep breath, close your eyes, and let the tales carry you across ancient seas and starry skies. Sweet dreams await. Story 1. Ragnarok, the night the stars fell. Long ago, before our world was quite like it is today, there lived powerful beings called the Aesir, the gods of Asgard. They built shimmering halls in the sky, rode swift horses across rainbows, and watched over the nine worlds. The mightiest among them was Odin, the All-Father, who traded his eye for wisdom and always sought to know what lay ahead. He loved his family, brave Thor, the thunder god with the flying hammer, kind Frigg, his queen, clever Loki, who was both a friend and a trickster, and many others who filled the halls of Asgard with songs and laughter. But deep beneath all the joy, Odin knew a secret. One day, the world would end, not with a whisper, but with a roar. This ending was called Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods. It was written in the stars and whispered by the Norns, who spun the threads of fate at the roots of the great tree Yggdrasil. Still, Odin didn't fear the end. He knew that every story must one day close, but endings often hold the seeds of something new. One cold evening, the wind howled across Asgard with a sound no one had heard before. The sky darkened, though the sun still hung high. A great shadow passed overhead. It was Skull, the sky wolf, chasing the sun, and this time he caught it. The sun disappeared, then the moon. The stars began to fall like glowing tears across the sky. The gods gathered, silent and watchful. Far away in the land of fire called Muspelheim, a giant named Surtur lifted his flaming sword. In the deep ocean, the Midgard serpent began to stir, and in the darkest part of the underworld, Loki smiled as he broke his ancient chains. "It's time," Odin said quietly. "Let us meet fate with honor." The battlefield was called Vigrid, a vast plain beyond the edges of the world. There, gods, giants, beasts, and monsters gathered, not out of hate, but because they each had a part to play. Thor faced the great serpent. Thunder cracked. The two fought fiercely, Thor's hammer striking lightning, the serpent coiling like a river of shadow. At last, Thor won, but the poison in the air made him fall too. Odin rode into battle on his horse, Sleipnir, his spear shining. But Fenrir, the enormous wolf and son of Loki, leapt through the smoke and swallowed him whole. Odin's son Vidar, who rarely spoke, stepped forward. In silence, he tore the wolf's jaws apart, avenging his father with strength as steady as stone. Everywhere the world trembled. Trees fell, mountains cracked, even the sky began to split. Then Surtur lifted his sword, and fire spread across the land, the seas, and the heavens. The world burned bright as the end came. But in that brightness, something new began. After the fire faded, there was silence. Then came the softest sound, a drop of water trickling, then another. The smoke cleared. The earth was not gone, it was changed. A new grass peeked up through the ash. Rivers flowed again, pure and clear. The sky returned, painted with colors more beautiful than ever before. And from the shelter of a hidden forest, two gentle humans stepped forward, Lif and Lifthrasir. They had slept beneath the roots of the world tree, safe and still. Now they were the first people in this new world. They smiled, holding hands, ready to begin again. Soon, a few gods returned. Balder, the shining god who had once died, walked again in the sunlight. Peaceful gods like Hoder and Vali joined him, and together they built a new home where joy could return. The world was quiet, but not empty. It was ready to grow again. Story 2: The Siege of Paris. Long, long ago, before the Eiffel Tower, before street lamps and cafes, there stood a city of stone and bell towers on an island in the middle of a river. That city was Paris, and it rang each morning with the sound of church bells echoing across the Seine. In those days, the Franks ruled the land, and their king was Charles the Bald. He was wise, but worried, for he had heard rumors from the sea of longboats with dragon heads, sails like blood, and warriors who came with the storms. Far to the north, across the cold waves, a Viking chieftain named Ragnar had grown restless. He was brave, bold, and clever. He had sailed many rivers and raided many shores. But now he looked south toward something greater. The city of bells, Ragnar said to his warriors one night as they sat beside the fire. We will ride the river like a serpent and strike where no one dares. And so they prepared their ships, not one or two, but 120 long ships, slicing the sea like knives. Their sails filled with wind, and the dragon-prowed fleet glided silently through the early spring fog. The Seine River twisted and turned like a silver ribbon through the green heart of Frankish lands. The people who lived along the riverbanks watched in fear as the Viking ships passed. Some fled, others prayed. The bells in small towns rang warnings as Ragnar's fleet moved closer to the heart of the land. But no one could stop them. They moved fast, like shadows over the water. By the time word reached King Charles, the longships were already at Paris's gates. Paris was not like it is today. It was a small, walled city on an island with bridges connecting it to the land. Monks lived in the churches. Farmers and bakers made their homes behind the walls. And at the heart of it all were the tall towers, where bells rang at dawn and dusk. The people gathered on the walls, watching the strange sails approach. They had heard stories of the Northmen, how they could fight like bears, how they never feared death. And now they had come. But Paris had its own strength. Its walls were strong. Its spirit was stubborn. The Franks believed they could hold. Ragnar sent messengers first. Open your gates, they said, and surrender, or we will come like fire and take all. The city refused, and so the Vikings attacked. They stormed the bridges, climbed the walls, shouted battle cries in a language the Franks did not understand. Fire lit the sky. Bells fell silent. The river ran dark with ash. But still, Paris held. Day after day, the Vikings pressed the city, but the walls would not break. And Ragnar, clever as he was, began to wonder if steel and fire were enough. One evening, Ragnar walked along the riverbank alone. He looked at the towers, he listened to the wind, and he thought, "The city is strong," he said to himself, "but even the strongest tree falls if the wind knows where to push." So he sent word to the king, a message, not a threat. He offered peace for a price. King Charles, tired and worried, agreed. He did not want his city burned, and so he sent silver, a great treasure, enough to fill wagons. Ragnar accepted the silver, but before he left behind something else, a warning. Paris, he said, will always ring its bells, but it will remember the river. Then he and his men vanished down the Seine, their ships moving like dreams back toward the sea. When Ragnar left, the people of Paris stepped out from behind their walls. The bells rang again, louder than ever. Life returned, bakers lit their ovens, children played in the streets, and the monks gave thanks. Some say King Charles paid a terrible price. Others say he saved his people. As for Ragnar, legend says he laughed all the way home, richer than any king, but thoughtful too, for he had seen a city that stood tall even when the sky burned. And so, dear dreamer, the river sleeps again. The towers of Paris still rise, the bells still ring, and though ships no longer carry warriors up the Seine, the wind still whispers stories of the time when a Viking came not just with fire, but with cleverness and courage. Let your dreams sail gently now, down your own quiet river. The stars above are your sails, and peace, like the bells of Paris, rings softly in the night. Good night.